When it comes to zombies and board games, we're spoilt for choice, and you could be forgiven for thinking there's so many in fact. Were you so disposed, you could play nothing but zombie-themed board and card games until an actual zombie apocalypse turns up. Joining this august list back in 2016, HitZRoad, or if you don't live in the US, HitZRoad, sees you taking a road trip across the United States as you try and lead a group of survivors from Chicago to Los Angeles during the middle of said zombie apocalypse. At the start of the game, you get to pick a player and 4 survivor pieces, along with some bullet, gasoline and adrenaline tokens in the form of these rather natty looking bottle tops. 3 decks of cards make up the encounters you have along the way. The numbers on the back indicate how dangerous they are. They are stacked in difficulty order and used in turn to create the 4 routes available to you. Players use this auction board to bid on the least dangerous and most lucrative route. As you can imagine, this is a bit of a balancing act. The temptation would be to go all in, but then you've got nothing to help deal with the inevitable run-ins with zombies later. At the same time, you don't want to hoard all of your resources and end up with a tougher route. You also need to bear in mind as the deck becomes more depleted, the encounters get tougher and resource management becomes even more of a challenge. The encounter cards are then played in turn from left to right. You grab resources, resolve any events, and deal with any zombies. Some cards also score you points. Or you can do a runner before all of this happens if you think the encounter card is too tough by spending gasoline tokens. You will, though, at some point have to start killing zombies. First, you can spend bullet tokens and try and gun them down at long range. But if you don't kill them all, you and your team of survivors have to deal with them up close and personal. The more survivors you have left, the more combat dice you get to roll. And this is the point where you can incur casualties, but you do get the option to spend adrenaline tokens to prevent this. Later in the game, you will come across zombie hordes, and then you can use the red dice to fight them. They are more brutal than the black dice and include something the rules call a horrible death, which you can't offset with an adrenaline token. If players are lost along the way, in the next turn, you still lay out the same number of encounter cards, but use these car keys to designate routes contaminated and more expensive to travel. With 1 player eliminated, it costs 2 extra resources. 2 players, it's 4. This is also how you set up things if you have less than 4 players. You win by either burning through the encounter deck or be the last one standing after everyone else's team of survivors are killed or presumably eaten by zombies. Should more than one of you make it to the end, as is board game tradition, the one who has the most points is the winner. There's more going on here than the components would suggest, as you try and balance the risk-reward element of the auction whilst trying to keep enough resources in reserve to battle or avoid the living dead. The dice rolls, however, can be cruel, but then again, so is a zombie apocalypse. And I do have to confess I'm a bit of a fan of the battered Americana aesthetic, and I can't be the only one who gets Fallout vibes, which are then carried across into the well laid out rules. Also, there can't be many games with a car key token. It won't, however, be for everyone. Some will be put off by the arguably overdone theme, lightweight gameplay and inevitable player elimination. And as it turns out, this might have actually been the case, as HitZ or ZRoad never got a reprint and ended up in the bargain bins. Which I think is a pity, as it's a great little game. This means, fellow gamers, if you're not generally a fan of zombie games but are tempted, it can be found on the second-hand market for the price of a couple of pints and a bag of crisps. And of course, you will need to remember Columbus's rules for surviving the zombie apocalypse.